Uncovering the past history is written by the victor. Unknown history at its most basic level seeks to answer a simple question. What happened? A historical fact is a piece of information about the past that helps us construct a narrative of human experience. But history is not merely a chronological list of events. Beyond recording dates and actions, historians attempt to uncover the why and how behind those events. They seek to understand the circumstances that gave rise to certain outcomes, the consequences that followed, and the ways in which events were remembered, reshaped, or reinterpreted over time. To accomplish this, historians compare accounts from multiple sources, analyzing where stories converge and where they diverge. Corroboration is key. If several independent accounts point to the same occurrence, confidence in its authenticity grows. These accounts are often weighed against archaeological evidence, which can confirm, challenge, or complicate written narratives. Neither history nor archaeology is an exact science. Both deal in probabilities, interpretations, and fragments rather than absolute certainties. Yet with advances in technologies such as carbon dating, satellite imaging, and digital archiving, researchers have been able to construct more credible accounts of the past than ever before. Still, history is more than evidence and interpretation. It also carries emotional, cultural, and symbolic weight. As Robert Fulghum wrote, "I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history. I believe that dreams are more powerful than facts. I say that hope always triumphs over experience, that laughter is the only cure for grief, and I believe that love is stronger than death." This perspective reminds us that people often turn to myth, imagination, and shared stories as much as to verified facts. While historians pursue accuracy, societies live by narratives, some symbolics that give meaning to collective identity and experience. The challenges of historical accuracy, historical accounts are often contested. It's not simply because people disagree about interpretation, but because reconstructing the past is inherently difficult. Many sources have been lost over time, destroyed by war, natural disasters, or the simple erosion of centuries. Some cultures relied heavily on oral traditions rather than written records, and while oral storytelling can be powerful, it is vulnerable to distortion. Each retelling may subtly alter the story, sometimes unintentionally, other times deliberately. As narrators add personal biases, cultural values, or political agendas, even written history is not immune. Before the invention of the printing press, every manuscript had to be copied by hand, introducing errors, exaggerations, and sometimes intentional alterations. Propaganda designed to persuade or manipulate has also long been a part of historical record. Distorting or outright fabricating truths in service of rulers or ideologies. Even when documents are authentic, modern historians face challenges in interpretation. Language changes over time, cultural references lose their context, and the worldview of the past may be radically different from our own. A single passage may generate multiple readings, especially when compared with other contradictory sources. As a result, history is rarely a matter of absolute certainty, but rather of carefully weighed possibilities. This uncertainty leaves ample space for competing interpretations. Groups in conflict often use history selectively, highlighting certain episodes while ignoring or dismissing others in order to strengthen their position. When rival interpretations clash, the dispute is not merely about the past, it becomes part of the present struggle. Historical facts and conflict. Any conflict that persists over long periods of time eventually becomes entangled with history. Narratives about the past shape identities, grievances, and justifications for present actions. For example, consider debates over nuclear energy. Discussions of safety often invoke past accidents, such as those at 3 Mile Island in the United States and Chernobyl in Ukraine. For environmental activists, these incidents are warnings about the catastrophic dangers of nuclear power. Advocates of nuclear energy, however, may frame the same events as isolated, as preventable tragedies that should not overshadow technological progress. In this case, historical facts are acknowledged, but their interpretation and significance are deeply contested. In other conflicts, history itself is at the core of the dispute. Israeli-Palestinian conflict provides a clear example. Each side constructs its own narrative of the land, its ownership, and its legacy. These competing historical accounts are not neutral. They reinforce national identity, political claims, and emotional attachments. The cycle is self-reinforcing. Biased histories are circulated as unquestioned truths, deepening mistrust and hardening partisan perspectives. Over time, the possibility of reconstructing an authentic shared history becomes increasingly remote, as both propaganda and counter-propaganda shape memory itself. Thus, historical facts can add to a conflict's intractability its resistance to resolution because they are not simply about knowledge of the past, but about legitimacy, identity, and belonging in the present. Constructively addressing history and conflict when disputes revolve around historical facts. The first challenge is to determine whether the debate is even resolvable, and if resolving it would improve the situation. Sometimes, careful historical investigation can uncover evidence that helps clarify events, reduce suspicion, or foster consensus. In other cases, new information is dismissed, ignored, or even inflames tensions by threatening long-held beliefs. The pursuit of truth can itself become dangerous if it creates false expectations. Since history is not an exact science, certainty is rarely attainable. Insisting on a definitive resolution may only deepen frustration and entrench positions further. In many cases, the most constructive path forward is to shift focus away from the past and toward the present and future. Losses of life and resources cannot be undone, but future harm can be prevented. Working together to prevent new damage may sometimes prove more fruitful than endlessly debating what has already occurred. Still, once a settlement is achieved, revisiting history can play an important role in healing. Mechanisms such as war crimes, tribunals, and truth commissions offer structured ways to address past abuses. Tribunals pursue justice by prosecuting those responsible for atrocities, while truth commissions focus on documentation, acknowledgement, and reconciliation, sometimes offering amnesty in exchange for full disclosure. Both approaches allow societies to confront painful histories without being held hostage by them, paving the way for renewed trust and coexistence. Other constructive strategies include collaborative history writing projects or joint storytelling initiatives. When groups on opposing sides work together to record and share their perspectives, they begin to recognize both differences and commonalities in their experiences. These joint efforts do not erase disagreement, but they create space for empathy, humanization, and a shared commitment to peace. In several post-conflict societies, such initiatives have served as powerful tools of reconciliation, helping communities transition from hostility to cooperation. Conclusion. History is never a simple record of what once happened. It is a dynamic and contested process of remembering, interpreting, and retelling. While historians strive for accuracy, human societies live by stories, some factual, some imagined, that shape identity, belief, and conflict. Because of this, historical facts are not neutral. They can fuel disputes, deepen mistrust, and make conflicts more difficult to resolve. Yet history can also serve as a tool for healing. By acknowledging multiple perspectives, by carefully balancing truth with reconciliation, and by shifting focus toward preventing future harm, societies can move beyond destructive cycles of blame. History, when addressed constructively, becomes not only a record of what has been lost, but also a resource for building more just and peaceful futures.